Hello, my name is Susan Lousada. I live in Oakley and have lived all but 4 years of my life in this county, and I am the current High Sheriff of Bedfordshire. The word sheriff derives from the words shire reeve, and early High Sheriffs led small armies at the Battle of Hastings. The Normans continued the office and added to the powers, so that during the 11th and 12th centuries, our High Sheriff's powers were so extensive that they dispensed justice in the courts, and indeed the badge of office still shows a sharp sword to represent justice, crossed with a blunt sword to represent mercy. They also had the powers to raise the hue and cry in pursuit of felons across the county. Their other responsibility was the collection of taxes and all monies due to the Crown. Under the Tudors, Lord Lieutenants were created as personal representatives of the sovereign, but the High Sheriffs remain the Queen's representative for law and order in the county. Whilst the Lord Lieutenant is a long-term position, the High Sheriff is for only 1 year. There is a story, how true it is I do not know, about how High Sheriffs were chosen. One day, Queen Elizabeth I was asked to choose a new High Sheriff from a list of people. She was sitting embroidering at the time, and instead of stopping, she stuck her bodkin into the parchment and pricked the name of the High Sheriff. Today, High Sheriffs are still chosen in this way, although it is now not random. And 5 years in advance, although you are not allowed to tell anyone. One interesting fact about the bodkin that our Queen uses to prick future High Sheriffs is that it's very bent. This is because King George VI, in his later years, developed some problems with his hands and often didn't know what pressure he was putting on things. So, as he picked a High Sheriff, he pushed so hard he bent the end. The Queen refuses to have another made, as when she uses it, it reminds her of her beloved father. So what is the role of the High Sheriff today? You are still the Queen's representative for law and order in the county, which means you still do lots of things to do with judges, magistrates and the court system. As High Sheriff, you also look after members of the royal family when they visit Bedfordshire along with the Lord Lieutenant. However, one of the key functions now is to support and promote the charities and organisations across this county, and which make it such a caring and generous place to live. As to my outfit, there are strict rules for court dress for male High Sheriffs, but not so for females, as we have not been able to hold the position for that long. And in a position that dates back over 1,000 years, I am only the 10th female High Sheriff in Bedfordshire. I have tried to make my outfit reflect and celebrate the skills of Bedfordshire. My hat has been made in Luton, and my lace was made in Elstow, and the pattern of the lace represents the River Ouse. Both these items are beautifully made by highly skilled people from this county. I was installed by Zoom in my kitchen on the 27th of March, as my church service to celebrate my induction had been cancelled due to lockdown. The theme for my year was always keeping children engaged in education. This focus stemmed from a concern about the devastating effects that county lines drug trafficking can have on the lives of children by making them vulnerable to sexual or criminal exploitation. I have always been passionate that children need encouragement and respond when they are given an environment in which to flourish. I wondered how I could help with the pandemic unfolding. Within the first few weeks, I became aware of what is now widely recognised as digital poverty. Children who wanted to learn but had no access to digital devices, i.e. computers, and unable to engage with the learning process. This issue already existed in our county, but the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the extent of the problem. I was approached by a local Luton charity, Level Trust, who were being contacted by children unable to revise for exams or do schoolwork as libraries and schools were closed. Consequently, working with Children's Service in Luton, we began to raise money so that specifically identified disadvantaged children in Luton could have access to a digital device. To date, we have delivered over 300 into Luton schools. Now we are doing the same for Central Bedfordshire and Bedford Borough. This scheme is not designed as an alternative to the government offering, but as an addition. It will allow the school to identify through their pastoral systems those children who would benefit from a device. This could be because there are multiple siblings in a family and they are all trying to utilise one, or they have to share it with parents, or just that some parents cannot afford to buy a device for their children. One of the other things I have been doing is writing lots of thank you letters and sending certificates to people who have done amazing things throughout the county. There have been some incredible stories of selfless care and just going above and beyond to help one another. One young 10-year-old girl has made rainbow badges that she has sold at her garden gate and raised over £1,000 for the NHS. One man has sung a different song every day and posted it online to cheer people up. And a large bear called Mr. Hugley has made many personal appearances in Luton to raise money for the wellbeing area in the Luton and Dunstable Hospital. Faith groups collaborated to feed those in need. There was no criteria. If you were vulnerable, if you were hungry, you were fed. So many villages formed their own groups to collect medicines, walk dogs, go shopping, not just to help older people, but also those unable to just help themselves. Batman, Superman, and many of the Marvel superheroes have been seen jogging around Luton. They weren't always raising money, but every day people could look out for them and just smile. I wrote to one elderly couple who decided the only way they could help their community was to make sure that they looked after the flowers in their front garden. They spent so long gardening that almost all the people in the village used them as a stop and chat point during their walks around the village. In Bedford, the rugby club organised and raised money so that the caterer could prepare food, which was distributed through a charity in Luton and also through the YMCA in Bedford. A group in Queen's Park have helped refugees and indeed anyone in the area that needed help, whether food, clothes or just advice. In this county we have such an incredible voluntary sector. That is all the amazing groups and charities. Many never even closed down during the lockdown. Age Concern in Luton and the Charity Faces in Bedford are two such charities that just kept going, exposing themselves to considerable personal risk, but nevertheless carrying on and helping others. I have found it both inspiring and humbling to hear the quite amazing stories, but in some cases quite ordinary stories, of people just reaching out to care for others. One interesting outcome of the pandemic has been that charities, instead of doubling up on services, have worked together to deliver the best they could. This would be a wonderful outcome if it could be kept going in the future. I am aware that this 2020 commemoration has a theme. Pandemics, do they change how we address age and ageing? My short answer to this is yes. I think that they have. I believe that there are a number of issues that need to be looked at in order for older people to cope with any further waves of this pandemic, or indeed any further pandemic that we may face in the future. In particular, avoiding social disconnection is vital. This could be argued to be a problem faced by both young and old, but it has been shown that when people become isolated, they have a greater risk of depression and anxiety. As a society, we must be able to find ways to prevent social disconnection. I believe that an important element to prevent social isolation is the use of technology. It should be more readily available and indeed should be used more frequently. Many of you, I know, will have used Zoom to keep in contact with grandchildren and great-grandchildren and other family and friends. In my family, we held rather disorganised family quizzes with everyone trying to talk at once. It was chaos. This is sadly not possible for everyone, but it should be. Making sure everyone has access to and knows how to use a digital device will mean people can still engage with groups or centres that they attend, or they can connect to education or online help and befriending services. Most importantly, there can be interaction with medical services. You can see your doctor and they could see you. Perhaps if we face another pandemic, there should be a government scheme to provide laptops or iPads to elderly people who do not have them, just as the government have tried to do with school children. If we do face further pandemics, there must be proper plans for providing food to those that are unable to leave their homes. We should not find ourselves in a situation again where people are faced with empty shelves. There needs to be plans for regular health checks via telephone or other digital interaction. And although our amazing voluntary sector and indeed our brilliant NHS and doctors have coped brilliantly, it has placed much strain on many people, and if it was to be repeated in the near future, would put people and resources under even greater strain. Loneliness has been a huge issue for many, but I think this pandemic has shown that people have reached out to others in their community and have tried to connect with those less able to help themselves. I am sure it has not been perfect, but this county has been an amazing example of community cohesion at its best. A lot has been learnt during the COVID-19 pandemic, and hopefully those lessons will help to form a plan that will ensure that those who are older in our society are cared for and supported going forward. Thank you for watching.